I've come a long way in my life from what I used to live, and it's natural that people would ask me how I did it, how I got here, how I got out of a domestic violence relationship, how I healed and found my peace. And I believe that volunteering absolutely helped save me from domestic violence. Now, I was 21 when my oldest child started school, which means I was 16 when I had him, and I was very aware of people's judgments towards young mums, towards teen mums, and I was a baby having a baby, so I get it. It didn't feel nice at the time, but I understand why people would judge or show concern. And so I was very aware of, wanting to prove myself, to prove to other people that I was a good mum. And I wanted to, prove to the world that I could do a good job as a mum. And so I started volunteering at his school. He started kindergarten. I, did reading groups once a week. And it was my way to prove that I was involved in his schooling and that I was, worried about him and that I was, trying to really take an active role in his life. And so I volunteered at the school for, one morning a week. I think it was about an hour and a half. And his teacher was just beautiful. She was really supportive, really passionate about her job, and I'll never forget that I had volunteered in the morning, did a reading group, and then the kids had, the bell went, recess, and the kids had all gone outside and we just stayed to chat a little bit. And I can't remember what we talked about, but I remember that I just needed someone to listen that day. And I don't even know if we talked about anything, substantial going on in my life or anything that was worrying, but just listen. And she would have missed her recess break, and I realized that later on. But just being listened to and heard, and I felt important. I felt validated. I felt like somebody was there, and that was Mrs. Hotham. I don't even know if she would remember that conversation. Well, she probably wouldn't, but I just remember that I felt important, I felt valued, and that was something I wasn't getting at home. And so that kind of spurred me on to, keep helping out at the school, because obviously you will want to go somewhere where you are valued and where you do feel important and like you're making a contribution and like you're doing something and giving back. So I kept volunteering at the school. And I started meeting people. I started meeting other mums who would become a really great support network for me and an outlet, a social outlet. And I also met teachers who, were in their professional careers. I was still quite young in their careers, and they were, moving through management and leadership roles, and it really inspired me. And so in 2008, at the end of 2008, I enrolled in a university degree because, I was surrounded by people who were making moves and who were, doing things to better themselves. And I wanted that. I wanted that for myself. And, I had left school because I had a baby quite young. I actually left school before I finished year 10. So it became another thing to prove to myself that I could get, a qualification. I could finish university. I could actually graduate a degree. It seemed enormous at the time, but I just, took the first step of enrolling. And then I took the next step of reading course materials. And then, it's that process of how to. And so I had enrolled in university and the school knew that. And so then the next year, a little bit later, I was offered a paid job of just one day a week. It was just one day a week at the school in a learning support role, like a teacher's aide role. And it was just enough to, boost my confidence. Then I had extra money coming in. Then I was surrounded all day by people who were, in these roles and just who I was aspiring to, become like. I had different conversations. I met different people. There was just a different energy around that really rubbed off on me. And so I kept, volunteering, and and then I worked, and eventually the 1 day a week did turn into full-time work. It was a couple of years. I ended up working in the preschool. I got a qualification in early childhood. That was all part of the role. And so, from volunteering when he was in kindergarten to, I think it was about 4 years later, maybe 5 years later, working in full-time employment. And it was so good to my my self-esteem, my self-worth, my confidence, and just giving me a direction to go to. And so that's when when it all happened, my eldest son was in year 7. That was when we finally separated. It was a whole violent escalation, a whole messy episode that required police intervention. And I was actually at work at the school at the time. The school had to get locked down. My children were brought to, my classroom. My eldest was at high school, so he was kept inside as well. It was a whole coordinated effort. And it really was the school that, supported me through the school with colleagues and with the people I had met, the friends I had made. And after I had escaped, domestic violence, and I was needing that extra support, it was those people that I met, the other mums, that really gave me that support when my family couldn't, when they were too far away. And, I had another friend, a really great friend, who I met through a football club, because my ex-husband had played there too. And I mean, she was absolutely a pivotal role. But the confidence of making friends at the school and of meeting new people then gave me the confidence to make friends with people outside of the school. You know what? I stepped out of my comfort zone so many times. But it absolutely paid off, because I was able to meet people, interact with people, form friendships, and really build that support network that served me after I escaped domestic violence. When I was still working full-time, I had friends who were watching my children, babysitting my children while I continued to work, because I was now the single income earner of the home. I had to keep working, and they watched my children for me, and they really helped me out, really supported us through that really difficult period. But it all came back to volunteering at the school. So I know people love to know the how-to. How do I get there? How do I do it? How do I feel better? How do I heal? How I eventually escaped domestic violence with the support that I had, I built from volunteering at my child's school. How do I feel better? I use the tools that I know to reset my nervous system when I become triggered, when I become scared, when I become angry, when I'm frustrated, when I feel triggered, when that anxiety and stress rises. I use the tools like deep, slow belly breathing. If you just breathe in and out slowly, when you notice that you're triggered, you will reset your nervous system. It will bring you back to baseline and bring calmness to your body and mind. There are other tools that I do teach, such as focusing straight ahead without moving your eyes and head. Just focus outwards into your peripheral vision. That brings instant calmness. So I do those things to help me feel better when I'm triggered, because healing is not a destination. I'm not just magically healed and I never get triggered. I get triggered, but I know how to move myself through it. I know how to get out of it, and I know how to heal it afterwards. So that's how I feel better. How do you heal trauma? You use a therapist or a practitioner to help you process and release those stuck feelings, those stuck emotions, those stuck memories. That's what causes trauma. It's when you keep being reminded of the thing that caused the fear or caused you to, cause that threat, caused you to be in danger and feel unsafe. Your body reminds you of that event over and over and over to keep you safe. It's for your survival, but it ends up triggering us, in seemingly normal situations. The alert system sometimes gets a bit malfunctioned, but that's how you heal trauma. The stuck memories, the stuck emotions, the stuck feelings, the trauma stuck physically in your body. By using a therapist or a practitioner to help you heal and release that trauma. Then there are, other things that you can do with movement, eating well, looking after yourself. Enough sleep and rest is really important to healing as well. And just maintaining your safety, physical safety and emotional safety. So there's all those things that you can do. I absolutely recommend engaging with a therapist or a practitioner who can help you physically and emotionally release the trauma. I'm a hypnotherapist. You can reach out to me if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, but I do absolutely recommend using someone along your journey. It's so helpful. But that's how I'm just sharing my healing journey in the hopes of contributing to yours, and I really do want you to do well. I want you to heal. I want you to feel better because I've been there and I know how challenging it is, how depressing it is, how frustrating, and just how, hopeless and helpless you can feel sometimes. It's so much better on the other side. Have a great day. You are significant because you are, and I love you because you exist.